All right. Oh my goodness. Thank you guys for tuning in to Empower the Letter U Crown Up, where this is where we empower our moms, entrepreneurs, and educators to cultivate better relationships by prioritizing their mental health. And today we have a special guest with us, Miss Shaunette, and we're just so excited to have her. Before we bring her to the stage today, we just want to make sure that you are taking time for yourself, that you are taking time out of your day to prioritize your mental health. Take a breath, take a breather, regardless of what's going on around you, to remember that today was not promised and God allowed you to wake up and see another day. So take a breath, relax, smile, and remember, whatever it is that you're dealing with right now, it is not the end all be all. So if it's not worth stressing over, matter of fact, nothing's worth stressing over, let it go. So we have our special guest here, Miss Shaunette. Miss Shaunette, we are so excited to have you. How are you?
Hey, I am awesome. Happy New Year. I am so ready to see what God has got in store for us this year.
Yes, yes. I'm so glad you said that because we're ready. Like, I think everybody was like, we're ready to embark on a new year, new me, just everything. I spoke at a conference called New Year, New You. And I was like, that's a perfect way to get 2024 started. But tell us about yourself and what it is that you do.
So, I am what you call a serial entrepreneur. I I have several I have several brands, but they all fall up under Sydney Event Productions, which was my first baby. Sydney Event Productions LLC is almost 16 years old. So this was my first business, and from that business I have spawned brands that coincide with this business, because everything I do is all about family, it's about love, it's about relationships. So Sydney Events falls up under there, which is wedding design and floral design. Then there is Your Day and Beyond, which is the podcast, the blog, the lifestyle, and travel has been added to that brand. And then Fight Less, which is my coaching brand, where I coach women on rewriting their love story. So I am always coming up with new things, new ideas, have to harness those a little bit. But after I get them harnessed, I generally bring them in under my brand, because I believe that you need to put as many irons in the fire as possible when it comes to diversifying your income.
Yes, especially nowadays, like more than ever, I feel like people are starting to realize that and see that. But it's also something that's kind of scary in a sense, because it's like now the average person has to have like 2 or 3 jobs just to make it. And it's like, what about our children, you know?
Right. And I get that. But when you're doing it as an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit different,
Right.
because it's building your brand, your financial security. You're not relying on other people. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that is one thing that we kind of got away from, just generations and generations ago. People used to be entrepreneurs. You had the barbershops, you had the lady, after church, you would go, she had her little store. I remember, growing up in my mom's hometown, we would go there for summers, and right across the street from the church, she had her business there. And you go to the barber shop, or you go get a dress made, or everything was within your community, and people were entrepreneurs. And I think when you embrace that type of lifestyle, you don't feel burdened or indebted, or maybe just, I think the best word to say is unappreciated. Because a lot of times when you work in companies or you work for organizations, all that you bring to the table, most of the time you're not appreciated for it. And being an entrepreneur, it's just a whole different level. It is very satisfying. It's hard work, but it's satisfying. And so for me, always being able to create another avenue stream to bring in income and bring in finances into my household is something that I love doing, especially when it aligns to my purpose, when it aligns to my creative talents.
Yes. And I love how you said that because it's about leaving that generational wealth for your family and you're building it.
Hmm.
And if we can go work on somebody else's job, why not do it for us?
Hmm.
And it's not to say that it's going to be easier or anything like that, because by all means, it's not easier. And so we see why so many people decide to stay on a job and just work a job because it does get frustrating at times. But at the end of the day, it's so rewarding because no job can tell you what you are worth. And so when
Right,
you have your own business, you set your own prices, you can set your own hours, really,
right.
and you're doing something that you're passionate about. And now I get when they say, hey, if you do something you're passionate about, you'll never work another day in your life, which is so true.
E- exactly.
Because you enjoy what you're doing. So that brings us to, what is your favorite quote or your favorite scripture? Something that helps you and pushes you, because we know life be out here lifing. Like I tell people all the time, and people have heard it so many times. I say it's hard in these streets because life be lifing. What is something, a scripture, a quote that keeps you motivated and keeps you going?
I have several quotes around my house. They're on my mirror in the bathroom. They're on the door going out the garage. They're on my closet door. They're on my, my pantry. I used to have them going down the hallway on the wall, but that was getting to be a bit much. But I have several quotes all around me so that it reminds me and motivates me throughout the day, especially when things get a little challenging for me and I'm really trying to figure out, okay, which direction to go, in making a decision. So those quotes help, but there's a scripture that I hold dear to my heart, and that's Proverbs 13 and 22. And it's, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And it just, that resonates with me so much because everything that I do for my family, because I know now how much generational wealth can help your family reach the highest potential that they could become. It's really hard to reach your highest potential and be who you were really meant to be when you're struggling in poverty.
Hmm.
And for a long time, even in my background, my upbringing, money was not something that was a conversation that we had in a positive light. It was more of a negative light because it was always about lack, not having enough. And so the conversations always circulated around lack instead of, abundance when it came to money. So my view of money and how I looked at money made it really hard for me, even to, as an entrepreneur, want to ascribe to leave an inheritance for my children and to, to build generational wealth so that, my bloodline can live better than I lived, and that next bloodline can live even better. And so, because those conversations were not had in my household about that, I view making money or having a lot of money as something evil.
Mm.
And it's counterintuitive to what the Bible is telling us. An inheritance, how are you going to leave an inheritance if you're not building wealth?
Mm. You can't.
What are you gonna what inheritance would you leave? What can you leave if you're not building wealth?
Yeah, it starts with the mindset because,
Hmm.
if your mindset is, oh, when I die, people can just get a GoFundMe or whatever the case is, that is not the mindset to leave generational wealth. And so that's why I'm glad you said that, because when I do my coaching, I do a lot of getting your mental right. Because if your mental is not right, there is nothing I can do for you, or nothing that you can do for any of your clients if their mental is not in the right place. And so we have to start identifying those self-limiting beliefs and get rid of those. Because if you grow up in a household that says, oh, no need to save money, what you gonna save it for? When you die, you can't take it with you. And that's true, you can't take it with you, but don't you want
You're
to?
not supposed to. You're
Right.
supposed to leave it for the next generation.
Right. And it's like, don't you want the next generation to be able to be better and for you to leave that generational wealth for them? And so I'm so glad that you said that, most definitely. So that brings me to, I know you are a serial entrepreneur. Tell us about your childhood. How was that? And also, did you see yourself being who you are today?
Um, I definitely did not see myself being who I am today. I did not see that little girl back then being this woman right now. My childhood was pretty typical. I grew up in a small town in West Texas, Breckenridge, Texas, and it was my mom's hometown. And we had tons of family, cousins, and things like that. So I always had people to play with. I have two brothers that are younger than me, so I'm the oldest. So I was the one made to be more responsible. Um, and that's probably why I'm a little bossy. But there were some experiences in my childhood that were also periods of instability, when my mom went through things in her marriage and things like that that took away that consistency for us of being where we were in a home. So we moved up to Fort Worth. I think I may have been fifth grade. And so a lot of instability took place for me from fifth grade pretty much through, I don't know, maybe seventh grade. There was some instability. It took my mom a little bit of time to get up on her feet. So we were living with people, and it's all good in the beginning, but then people let you know real quick they're ready for you to go, no matter if
Mhm.
you're paying, them rent or whatever. So they want their own space. And so you could feel that energy even as a child. I was always able to pick up on things like that. And so those are the things that made me a little shy. They had me going inward a lot, not having, not feeling safe. And that shaped how I wanted to raise my children. That also let me know how strong my mother was and what she went through to take care of three children. So it really changed my perspective on a lot of things, about, just being a mother, being a woman. And my mom always pushed education. Education was very important to her. So she, that was one of the things in our house. You will get an education, you will get a college education. And so because she pushed like that, I'm college educated. I have two bachelors and a master's, and I think an associate. So yeah. So I'm thoroughly educated, and love that I am because of what she pushed for. And I think she pushed for those things because she didn't want us to have to struggle the way that she was struggling.
Mhm.
And once things got very stable for us, she got a more secure job. And we were good. She started going back to school and she got her degree. She got her bachelor's degree. So again, education was very important to her. And had that not been something that she instilled in me, my life probably would look a lot different. Um, and it's because of the education that and also being reared in church.
Mm-hmm.
That played a big importance in my life as well. So those are the foundational things that make up who I am. Education, family, um, spiritual background, or it was religious, then turned spiritual background. But those are the things that have shaped the woman that I am today. And I'm super, 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 super proud of me because I've been through some things.
Mm-hmm.
And those things have shaped me, they've molded me. But as you said in our part one, that you went through something to be a testimony to someone else. And that is basically what we are here for. Our struggles that we go through, we're strong enough to go through them. And because we're strong enough to go through them, we have to be that voice and that testimony to let another woman know, hey, girl, I know what you're going through. I know what you feel. I know how you feel. And you know what? You're going to come out of this okay. Because I did.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think I would be that woman. I don't think I would have the stories that I have if I didn't have the childhood that I had.
Yes, and your childhood pushes you, and I'm glad you said that because being with the background in education, we see it every day where education is changing. And it's hard to see that
Mhm.
because you don't necessarily see the parents like what we had back then to push you and no, you're not gonna just sit around and do nothing,
Right,
and things of that nature. And so it's hard to see that because living in this day and time with everything going on, it's like, no, you don't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be like that. Like, we
mhm,
need you to push yourself, and kids need that push because they don't know what they want to do or want to become. But that's our job is to lead and guide them. And I think a lot of parents are forgetting that because they want to be their child's friend so bad, but you cannot. They need direction. Not saying they
right,
have to be harsh, but there's a way to do it.
right, right. And I think a lot of parents are pretty lost themselves, just trying to figure it out because it is a different world that we live in. And a lot of people are just focusing on just trying to live, just trying to put food on the table, just trying to make ends meet. And sometimes it's unfortunate that those children are the ones being left behind
Mhm.
because parents are focused on those other things. Now, you got parents too that are not focused on those things. They're focused on the wrong thing. But I think the majority of the parents really do want to do a good job. They just don't know how.
Right, because like I tell people all the time, parenting does not come with a manual at all.
Right. Right.
It does not. And so, that goes to what we talked about removing the mask in part one, but we're in part two now, where you get to talk to the audience about the importance of removing the mask. And so tell us, why do you think so many people are holding on to that mask and not being authentic, being free?
I think probably the main reason is that, and I'm talking from the woman's perspective,
Mhm.
that women hold on to the mask is because they really haven't learned to love themselves and
Mm,
accept themselves. And because they haven't really learned that or come to that realization about themselves, they feel like they have to pretend. And when we pretend, we never pretend to be less than. We always pretend to be more than. When you're
mhm.
playing dress up as a little girl, you wanted the full on the wig on, the high heels on, you wanted to go full in on it. And it's the same thing with women that have not fully embraced themselves and who they really are and who they truly are, and not just embrace themselves, but love themselves, genuinely love themselves, they tend to put on masks. I was that woman.
Mhm.
I for years, I was in a very toxic marriage. And on the outside, it looked like I had the world in my hands. Um, I always loved my wardrobe was stylish. I was gonna be either the trendsetter or on trend in my wardrobe. Um, and hair, nails, just always I looked the epitome of somebody that stepped out of a magazine, like my mom used to always say. But on the inside, it was something else going on with me mentally, with me, spiritually, because I was drowning, or dying literally in a marriage because it was such a toxic marriage. And I wore that mask because, hey, it felt good to have, that financial piece in the marriage. That financial piece where I could buy the things that I wanted. And I used that as a distraction a lot. Shopping, shopping, shopping. That was my distraction to mask what I was feeling on the inside, that this marriage isn't good for me. I need to get out of this marriage. And so on my journey of healing, I sought out therapy, and I also work with a life coach. And doing those things, they helped me to really get at the core of loving me,
Mm.
because um in my past, like I said, there were things in my past that there was instability, and there was trauma there. There was trauma with being molested. So there were a lot of things going on in my head, and a lot of things that I hadn't managed, I hadn't dealt with, I hadn't come to terms with, didn't know how, because it happened when I was so young. So I didn't even have the vocabulary or the mental maturity to even understand what was being done to me. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't know that I could stand up for myself
Mhm.
because I'm a child. And so I carried that with me for years, and that kind of energy is what attracted me to that toxic person, because we were just vibing on each other's energy, and it was just not an equally yoked marriage. And I knew that going in, but did it anyway, because I felt like, oh, I'm this age and I probably won't get married again. My first marriage, my husband ended up getting killed in an accident. That's my daughter's father. So she was 8 months old. So she didn't even get to grow up with her father. And that was my first marriage. And so it ended in death. So I was a young widow.
Mhm.
So, and then, I'm getting older and things are pretty settled for me. I'd gone back to school, kind of, worked through the grieving process, all of that. And then I started feeling like, okay, time is running out for me. I'm still single. I'm not married. I wasn't in the category of I had never been married as a Black woman, because I had. I was in that awkward category. I'm single with a daughter, and I'm widowed. And so as time moved on for me and I got up in years, in my late 30s, I started feeling more or less like, okay, this has to happen for me. I dated, and dated some pretty cool guys. Um, then I ran into the wrong guy.
Mm.
And I've always been attracted to bad boys, so that right there. But this one was a little too bad. So um in that relationship, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself. I learned about how sacrificing I am, self-sacrificing for other people that I love, especially for people that I love. I'm like, I'm gonna go hard for you. I'm faithful. I'm loyal. I'm gonna stay in this. We gonna fight this through, even if I'm the only one fighting to make it work. But I realized though that doesn't work. That
Mhm.
energy is on the wrong person. And so once I untangled myself out of that, it happened like for 5 years, I was untangling me, mindset, working on, my mindset, working on, my thoughts and healing from traumas that I had in my childhood. So moving through all of those things for the first three years, and then I filed for bankruptcy, and because I was setting it up, I knew I was leaving, but I was gonna leave with a plan
Mhm.
because I still wanted to have my lifestyle. I didn't want to have to sell my house, move, downsize into something else. I like my neighborhood. I'd been over here for a while. I made my house a home, so I didn't want to lose any of those things. And so I made a plan to get out of it. And the first thing that I knew I had to do was get my mind right, and then my finances, and then I could untangle myself from that situation. And that, I believe, is also why I could untangle myself from the situation and not be bitter or not even hate my ex-husband. Like if I
Yeah.
saw him right now today, I would be concerned. I would talk to him. We don't have anything to talk about because we didn't have any children between us. So the divorce was, done and over with when we untangled ourselves from it. But um I can say that that was, so far in my life, the biggest learning experience I had ever had, because when I love hard. And like I said, I'm loyal, I'm faithful. And in that situation, I wore so many masks every day, going to
Yeah.
work or with friends or with family. Just
But
wore,
why do you think
just
that is? Why do you think you went to work and with family you were wearing that mask?
I didn't think anyone would number one, I was ashamed. I
Mhm.
was ashamed of the kind of relationship that I was in, and took most of the responsibility for it, even though all of it wasn't on me. But for whatever reason, a lot of women, when the marriage fails, we tend to take it on as our responsibility.
Mhm.
But I was ashamed. And then just didn't feel like that I had anyone I could talk to who would understand.
Yes. And
And
I'm glad you said that because a lot of times we wear so much and it's not our weight to carry. And I tell so many of my clients, it's not your weight to carry.
mhm,
Even though you're telling yourself and you're going through mentally, like, how do I, say this or how do I get through this? And it's because, growing up, like I tell people all the time, however you grow up, that's how you tend to carry on in your adulthood until you realize, okay, wait a minute, I got to do something different because this is not the right way, or necessarily I need to do things differently in order to get a different outcome. And so you
mhm,
had to keep pushing through, and you wore that
mhm.
mask because you felt like in that moment that was the thing for you to do.
Right, right. And how the mask came off, you didn't ask me that, but
Yeah, tell us. How did you take it off?
again, therapy. I got a life coach. Um, and then I met my husband, who at that time wasn't my husband. I met him online.
Mhm.
And that relationship was probably one of the most loving things that God has done for me, because that or this relationship I'm in now, because I'm married to him, that relationship developed. It was a friendship that developed between us. And just me being able to talk to him about what I was going through, um and how it was making me feel. And he was so supportive and so open to my conversation, because that's all we had was conversation, because we had a whole continent between us. He lived in Ghana and I lived in the US. And so our conversations are what helped me get through the healing process as well.
Having those conversations. Because that leads to our last question. What words of advice would you give to someone who is like the woman that you used to be, doesn't know how, doesn't feel like, she can talk to someone? What advice would you give her to actually remove that mask? Like, what would be your first step, second step, or third step?
I would say first step, and I'm remiss in not saying this because I should have, because my first step was prayer.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, my first step before I even sought out counseling or anything else, it was prayer, and then the prayer is what gave me the strength and the wisdom to go to these other steps. And so definitely prayer would be the first thing that I would say do.
Okay.
Pray and just, until you hear from God on what to do, and when you hear from him, because I heard from him a lot about my relationship, and I didn't act on what I heard.
Mhm.
So
You gotta take
you have to
action.
be
You gotta
ready.
execute.
Yeah, if you have to be ready. So when you ask for guidance and he gives you that guidance, then you got to take action. And don't be afraid to take the action, because it's all for your good. It's scary. It feels like you're fearful because this is the devil, you don't know what's on the other side, but take the risk and go to the other side, because your heart can never be wrong. And love is not something that will hurt you.
Yeah.
Love is not hurtful. And so if it's something that's going to move you away from hurt, trust me, you're on the right track. It's scary. Um, you know, you know, you don't know, you have a lot of uncertainty, but trust me, through his word, whatever he tells you to do, do it.
Yeah.
Because what's waiting for you on the other side is a whole
Whole
lot
lot
more,
better.
whole lot better than what you're in right now.
Yes, I think it's hard for some women to just say, okay, can I really start over? I got these kids, I got this house, what will people say? But I'm
Mhm.
with you, Shaunette.
Mm,
Just do it. Do it for
yep.
you. Do it for your peace.
Mhm.
Do it for your sanity. Do it for you to longevity of your life.
Right.
Because I ask people all the time, if things were to stay the way they were right now, would you be happy? Would you be able to sustain? And they're like, no. So that means you got to choose you, and you got to choose you wisely. So, Shanae, how can our guests and our followers, our listeners, stay in contact with you?
They can stay in contact with me on social media or my website. Website is yourdayandbeyond.com, and social media, Instagram and Facebook is yourdayandbeyond.com. But I'd also like to let everyone know that I have a tour getting ready to kick off to Ghana in July of 2024. And you can get more information on that also on Your Day and Beyond Travel Adventures.
All right. I love it. We'll make sure that is posted below so everyone can stay in tune and stay connected with you and get on your trip to go to Ghana. Love it. Well, Chanel, we're so excited to have you as a guest here on our episode. What are some parting words that you would love to leave to empower our moms, our entrepreneurs, and our educators when it comes to removing the mask?
I would say do it now, especially if you're listening to this show and you've been prompted or you've been uncomfortable because what's being said is resonating with you, then that is your cue to take action in your life this year. Don't let another year go by being hurt, being misused, being mistreated, um, being sad, being unhappy. Take action.
I'm so glad you said that's my word for 2024 is to execute. Because, what good is all that knowledge or knowing that something is not working or good for you or right for you or whatever if you're not going to take action and execute? Because you're going to be in the same place 15 years from now. And so I agree with you. Take action, execute, do what you need to do to create the life that you truly, truly desire. Well, Shaunette, thank you so much for being on our episode today at Empower the Letter U Crown Up. We're so excited to have you, and we look forward to having you on future episodes.
I look forward to it too, and thank you so much for having me.
Yes.